What's up, everyone? This is Andrew here with your business breakdown, where we go through the most interesting news and events that happened in the business world. So to start off with, let's take a look at something that's innovative, that's groundbreaking. SpaceX had a big launch on November 15th. They launched their Crew Dragon capsule, and this was the first private company launching a manned mission to the International Space Station. So if you take a look at this and what we had previously done, we used to have to pay the Russians $86 million per astronaut to ship astronauts to the International Space Station. Now SpaceX did this launch and they charged $55 million per astronaut for a total of about $220 million for the 4-person crew. So that's a huge savings right there. That's about $100 million they saved. And you're going to see this trend continue of hopefully cutting costs and making space travel and exploration more affordable. And if you also look at this, Boeing is also trying to do their own version of a private enterprise launching manned missions. Theirs right now is the Starliner rocket, and that's estimated to cost about $90 million. But it's a little bit more expensive than the Russian process right now, but hopefully they can bring that cost down as well. But it'd be better than paying another country to launch your astronauts into space. And you can see this, how using capitalism and the free market here and private enterprise, they can drive down the cost of these things, where previously NASA was the only one, the government institution would be able to launch manned missions into space. Thought that was some pretty cool news right there. Next up, we have the big news of the week. In the beginning of the week was when Moderna announced their big vaccine trial update here. So their vaccine was 94.5% effective in trials, and there was no major health issues reported. So that's two really big things right there. And then you're looking at, okay, we had the news from the previous week from Pfizer and BioNTech, and now we have this one. Who's left in the market for vaccines? Well, there's still AstraZeneca and Johnson & Johnson making vaccines, but in total, there's actually 23 other companies still working on vaccines. So we could potentially have a number of different vaccines come onto the marketplace within the next year. So an interesting thing here, the two vaccines that have come out so far are using a new technology called messenger RNA. And that's how instead of delivering a weak version of the virus, it's actually using this messenger RNA, mRNA, to deliver the proteins from the virus to let you build up antibodies to fight against it and prevent the infection. So it's a different method, and it hasn't been done with vaccines in the past. There's never been an FDA approval on a vaccine of this nature. So it's going to be interesting when these actually are able to pass and be used in human trials or in actual human consumption. Now, apparently 20 million Americans can get vaccinated this year potentially with this vaccine, and 25 million per month in 2021. That's what they're saying right now. And after this news came out from Moderna, then you had Pfizer and BioNTech. They don't want to be one-upped by this, right? So their trial was, I think it was around 90% effective. They just came out now and they said after more results came out, their vaccine was also 95% effective there. And they're trying to work to get this to the next stage to actually get the vaccine out to the public. Big news there on the vaccine front. Then we have some news from Tesla, which is just always in the headlines, it seems like. So Tesla has been around for 17 years, and they have finally been added to the S&P 500 stock index. So this is a big deal because right now, everybody that owns a index fund or an ETF that owns the S&P 500, they're going to have to be going and buying some of this company now because it's going to be part of the index. So, I mean, after being around for 17 years, people thought they were going to go bankrupt for so long, and they're finally going into it. And if you remember in a few videos ago, we also talked about the expectation they were going to go in earlier, and then 4 other companies went into the S&P 500 instead of Tesla. But now it seems like they are going in. It's going to be added on December 21st of this year. And the stock was up like 14% on this news that it was going into the index. There's a lot of buzz about it. But at the end of the week, it was up about 20%. So that's a huge move right there, to the point where it actually hit a new high. I think on Thursday, it hit a high of $508.61, all-time high. So that's pretty crazy right there. And at this point, looking into it, you're like, okay, how far has this gone? Just in this past year, the stock is quintupled. That's 5 times its increase in share price just this year. That's pretty incredible right there. And then you have this more positive news. Now, in January, they were the most valuable U.S. car company by market cap. And going into the S&P 500, you're kind of weighted into the index by your market cap. So what you do is you have like the 10 largest companies in the S&P 500. Well, Tesla's market cap is actually so high that they are number 7. They were about 418 billion when this announcement came out. They'd be number 7 on that list of the 10 largest companies in the S&P 500. And they're just being added now. I mean, a lot of that growth has come this year, though. So if you look at the 10 largest companies real quick, you have Apple, Microsoft, Amazon, Alphabet, Facebook, Berkshire Hathaway, Visa, Walmart, then Tesla, then Johnson & Johnson. This company is actually larger than Johnson & Johnson. But that's not the end of this. If you look at how much the market cap has gone up on this news, they're actually worth about $460 billion now, which would place them above Visa and Walmart in the number 7 spot, I believe, here. So yeah, I mean, that's pretty crazy that you're seeing all this news come out about it. And then you also have some bad news that came out about Tesla and their cars. So Consumer Reports actually came out and dropped the rating from the Tesla Model S for reliability concerns. So they have this big survey that they do, and it comes out, and they said there was issues with air suspension and the main computer and touch screen controls. So that was the big announcement there, and they're saying that now the Consumer Reports organization, the only Tesla model that they actually give the good rating for reliability and everything on is the Model 3. The other ones are no longer on the list. So it's kind of crazy here that in, I think it was 2015, the Tesla Model S came out and had the highest possible rating ever given by Consumer Reports. And then now they're falling off the reliability list and everything. And right now that list is, I think it's 26 different car companies, their brands on this list. So last place I thought was interesting was Ford's Lincoln brand. And the top 3, Mazda, Toyota, and then Lexus. And this is one of the first times that I think Mazda is actually on the top of the list for reliability here. We have Asia making some trade deals here. So this is big news because if you're looking at the size of these economies, it's pretty significant. This is called, and they like to do the interesting names, Regional Comprehensive Economic Partnership, or RCEP. Now, this includes 15 countries. It includes China, Singapore, Japan, South Korea, New Zealand. So it has all of those different countries in the Southeast Asia, and it covers about 2.2 billion people. That's a ton of the population of the Earth right there that are involved in this trade deal. And one of the important things is that it now only requires one-page document for the rule of origin of a product. So before it was kind of a more lengthy process, and it's kind of eliminating some of the paperwork that you have to do there and making business easier to transact. So that would be a positive for the areas involved. Well, a major thing with this, though, is that the United States is not included in this deal. Neither is India. So once again, you're having these kind of trade deals that are going on in Asia, and the United States is not a part of those. So if you look at it, of course, this trade deal, since it's in Asia, it stayed away from the thorny issues here of mistreatment of labor, intellectual property, and government control and subsidies to particular businesses, because they don't really want to talk about those kind of things. But looking at this now, this is just another step for China, Japan, South Korea, and all these countries in Asia to really make a stronger partnership without the United States. And the total GDP for this area is actually about $26.2 trillion. So that's significantly more than the United States economy. Our economy is about 20 trillion GDP rate right now. And if you look at closely, if you look at actually the World Factbook, CIA.gov, they show the GDP for different countries around the world. And China's GDP is considered to be actually higher than the United States now. So we're seeing, again, United States being out of these trade deals that are going on, and it's pretty significant. Next up, we have Home Depot earnings. So there's a lot of retailers coming out with earnings. Home Depot in particular was doing pretty well. They had earnings per share beat because it was expected to be $3.06. They made $3.18 per share. The revenue, which was estimated to be $32.04 billion, ended up actually being $33.54 billion. So that's a lot right there. The comparable store sales, and this is one of the most important factors for kind of retail stores. It's stores that have been open over 12 years, and the change from this year from a year ago period, right? So this one was up a whopping 24.1%, which is huge. I mean, normally in a normal economy, you have same-store sales go up, 5%, and it's a good number. Here we're having 24%. Another thing with Home Depot, they're doing a acquisition here of HD Supply for $8.7 billion. And this is pretty big, and it's interesting because Home Depot actually spun this company off from under them in 2007. They thought they didn't need them. But now they want to get more into the electrical, plumbing, and janitorial supplies business for industrial use. So they're going to be going and buying this company. And another update from Home Depot is that they know that the pandemic's going on and they kind of wanted to try and do something for their workers that are on the front lines right now dealing with this crisis. So they announced plans to spend around $1 billion on bonuses and compensation increases for those frontline workers. That's pretty cool there. Lowe's also reported their earnings, and they had, their sales increased 28% as well. Berkshire Hathaway has been changing around some of its major holdings. So this is significant because it's Warren Buffett's company, and anything he does is very closely watched and scrutinized here, although he doesn't make all the trades. He also has some other individuals there making the trades. But Berkshire Hathaway had purchased almost $2 billion worth of a number of these pharmaceutical companies, Merck, Bristol Myers Squibb, and AbbVie. So why did he choose those and not the ones that we hear now coming out with all these vaccines, right? Well, it turns out that they made this investment, this $2 billion worth of shares, back in September. And in September, you didn't have all these companies announcing all this big vaccine news and everything else. You have Pfizer, BioNTech, Moderna, AstraZeneca. You have all those companies announcing these trials with the vaccines. So I thought that was interesting there. Then looking at the banks that Berkshire Hathaway owns, they actually sold off Wells Fargo and JP Morgan. And it looks like their major bank holding now is Bank of America. And we know in the past, Warren Buffett was always a fan of JP Morgan and Jamie Dimon and Wells Fargo. And Wells Fargo has all the controversies going on around that. But now their main focus is Bank of America. Amazon is going into the pharmaceutical area right now. So they're going to actually be their own pharmacy and deliver prescription medications for home delivery. And this is going to be good because it's on Amazon Prime, so people can get, just immediate delivery of the pharmaceutical products that they need. And this is really, this devastated all the different companies that are, like Rite Aid and CVS. All these companies were down 7.5%, 8% for Walgreens. You had Boots Alliance down 8%. Rite Aid was down 16%. GoodRx was down 18%. So all of these companies were down. Amazon was up a little bit on the news, but we're going to see over time how well they are going to be able to penetrate this market. Just another area that Amazon is going into. Going back to some of the retail news, we had Target, which is one of the companies that is doing really well in 2020, despite everything that's going on. It's become a main venue that's still open that people can go to during the pandemic. Comp store sales are up over 24.3% for the quarter. That's pretty significant right there. Again, we're just having these blowout same-store sales increases. So then you had expectations for this. We're only at 11.2%, so it was double the expectations. Then if you're taking a look at this from, some of the other companies, Walmart had comparable sales store growth of 6.4%. So this is all double that as well. So Target's doing really strong here. And they said that the top areas were office supplies and house goods, as people were doing their stay-at-home offices and redecorating their house since they're stuck in it and can't go outside and explore, really. They reported earnings per share that were expected at $1.60, and they came in at $2.79, doing really well right there. Next up, we have to talk about what's going on with Zambia and international debt markets. So this is an interesting one here. So Zambia in Africa is the first country that is going to default on some of its debt now during this whole pandemic-induced crisis that we have in 2020. So an interesting thing with this is that on November 13th, the G20 countries actually changed some of the rules of how they restructured debt. In the past, it was basically the G20 countries would take all the losses, and then countries that were what you would call developing countries, they wouldn't take losses on the debt, on the restructuring. So now they changed that, and countries such as China will have to participate in the debt restructurings and take losses on their investments, which I don't understand why it wasn't like that in the first place. So now looking at this, it was right after that news, right after the rules came out, Zambia missed a $42.5 million interest payment that's denominated in US dollars. That's $3 billion worth of its dollar-denominated bonds. So, I mean, that's pretty crazy right there. They're just kind of decided not to pay it because they're trying to find a way out from under this, right? So you look at countries like China. So China actually has all these US dollars, which is the world reserve currency. They have them from exporting all goods to the United States and also buying all our treasury bonds. They have over $1 trillion in treasury bonds. So they have all these dollars that they can spend somewhere. So they go around the world and they spread all the dollars out into other territories and purchase up all these assets and all these debt and everything else. So now looking at Zambia, Zambia has $12 billion in debt outstanding. And about 9.7 billion of that 12 is owned by China. So with this new change in the restructuring rules, it makes it a lot riskier for the Chinese investment there. And Zambia's economy now, the debt to GDP ratio has crossed the 100% mark. So for a normal country such as this, where you're not the United States and the world reserve currency and you can do whatever you want, a country such as this, that means that, in the entire year, their debt is more than what their economy makes in an entire year. And the strain, that's why they couldn't pay these $42.5 million interest payments. Enough with that one.